model serving, and I'm here to demo some of the things that we can do with the Cohere API and some example use cases where we build something with it also. At Cohere, our goal is to make NLP part of every developer's toolkit. We give developers access to the latest generation of LLMs that we train, host, and serve for everyone to be able to use. And it's easy as just using a simple API call. So it doesn't even require any ML experience to access these. I'm specifically here to talk about what API endpoints are available for use using our playground, and then some example use cases of our API that I found interesting, including like a conversational chatbot and also a grounded question and answer. The 4 different endpoints that we have available today that are the basic building blocks are the generate endpoint, embed endpoint, classify endpoint, and the summarize endpoint, which just recently launched a few days ago. And I think the names are relatively self-explanatory, but we'll dive a little deeper into them. So for generates realistic text given a specific prompt. And depending on the prompt, it matters a lot on how you actually engineer this prompt, which Hemant mentioned. Usually you should be giving a short description of the context of your situation and a few examples of prompts and example completions that you made yourself. And some example use cases could be copywriting, creating a chatbot, or even summarization tasks. The next endpoint we have is embed. We are able to create embeddings from a list of text with this endpoint. As mentioned before, embeddings are a way to represent the meaning of text as a list of numbers. And this is useful because we are able to compare for similarity as when we have these embeddings, and we can calculate and figure out which of these texts are talking about similar things. This can be used for things such as semantic search, topic modeling, recommendations, and you can even do embeddings over multiple languages, which we have the functionality for using multilingual embeddings. For classify, I had a picture here, it's not here, but so classify, as the name implies, we can classify text based on labels you have given us. Part of the API call would be to give us some example text and then a label for it, and then you would give us the prompt that we then process and give a classification for based on your examples. This can be used for identifying hate speech, abusive language, spam, profanity, or anything that you have a certain filter for. This is the picture. And then the last endpoint, which again is in beta, but we just recently launched, was summarize. Summarize is very similar to generate, where given certain an article or something, we can then generate a summary. But it's been specifically fine-tuned for the summarization use case. You can summarize news articles, blogs, chat transcripts, scientific articles, and it's pretty cool. And then now I'm moving on to the playground, which is where you can play with all of these different endpoints. Anyone can go onto Cohere's website and then create an account with a free, we have a free tier, and then we're able to use any of these endpoints in the web browser. You can try generating text, classifying certain things, or summarizing articles that you have, using this. On the playground itself, we have different parameters. You're able to select which models that you are interested in using. There's smaller models when you're more interested in latency, and larger models when you're more interested in quality. And then depending on the endpoint itself, you have different parameters. For generations, you can request the amount of words you're interested in. And then there's different, a lot of different parameters to tune for your specific use case. Yeah, and then also on the playground we have some example presets that are like pretty cool. I'll show some of them soon, but yeah, we have like some example use cases, and we can run the models ourselves and then see like what it outputs. Yeah, and then in addition to that, we have a lot of SDKs. We have Go, Python, Node.js, and the playground allows us. The playground gives us the working code in order to actually run these. So like once you have like a call that you have, you can easily export it to the language of your choice, and just run it with yourself, and it helps you develop and iterate. And then going to the playground itself. I should probably be mirroring now. Yeah. Okay. Don't look at my emails. Yeah, so here's the playground. As I mentioned, at the top we have the different endpoints we're able to use. Some of the presets right here, like for example, we can, we click the LinkedIn post generator, and using this, like given this prompt, write a LinkedIn post about starting a career in tech. We can then run the model and then see what it outputs. And it should work. Yeah, so I'm excited to announce that I'm starting a career in tech, blah, blah, blah. Like we all seen this on LinkedIn, and now it's automated away. So, and then, this is like an example of how we would use this like for copywriting. You can like make your marketing through this. And as mentioned before, you can also like select different models. We have like, smaller models or more specific like command models, depending on your use case. And then maybe I'll just try embed also. This is a bunch. This example involves like embedding a bunch of different subreddit posts. And then if we run it, we're able to see this like nice visualization. We can see like the different points are each post, and then like the clusters are if they're similar or not. So if we look here, it's talking about mattresses and like husbands and wives. So like relationships. And then for this one, like Russia, NATO, Biden's, a lot of politics. So as you can see, it's able to go through all of these embeddings, or these inputs, create the embeddings, and then using similarity search, we're able to like actually categorize them, or like see the similarities. And so, and then as I mentioned before, if we ever wanted to like make this call, we're able to like get this simple code and then export it and then run it ourselves. And then going back to the presentation. So that was the playground, and then now moving on to like more, I guess, interesting use cases for like more full-fledged projects. I can start with Conversant, which is a framework that we built for like building conversational agents, meaning like we can build different chatbots with certain personalities. Like, for example, we can talk to a wizard or a sales agent, or just like any, and then you can create your own personalities too using this framework. So like for example, you can also talk to a math teacher if you really want to. But this is just like an example. I'll demo this later, but you're able to select a persona and then pretty much just talk to it. And like I think the key components here are that we have the personas. These are, I'll explain how they work more later, but effectively this includes like a description and some example text, as well as like a name and bot name, and we can use this in addition to like the chat history that we have, and generate the conversation and generate a response to like the user talking to them. And then here's a high-level diagram. It's pretty, yeah, like I guess not that interesting, but yeah, this is effectively what how Conversant runs. How we started is, yeah, as I mentioned, we have these chat like personas where it effectively is part of the prompt where we give a lot of context, we give examples of like conversations that this persona would have, and yeah, and then this is like effectively like the personality. Like, so for example, if you read what's up there, this is like a persona for a wizard, and it gives like examples of like conversations that a wizard or how they would talk, and also like a description of what they are. And then given that, we are able to then, like the prompt we would give Cohere or our generate endpoint would be all of that plus like a hello from us. And then based on our hello, it would respond with like a reply for a greeting. So yeah, then the wizard would say, well met, fair traveler, what brings thou to my village? So yeah, like this is an example of like the greeting it would give us. And then from here on, we can just keep on talking to this bot. Yeah, and based on our conversation, I will type to it, and then it will append to this prompts that we will then reuse for and call generate again, and then eventually will continue this conversation on, and yeah, give us replies. And I think yeah, there's some interesting things to talk about. Is like eventually our like, conversation will obviously go above a certain point where our model can't support this input. So there's like some limitations to this, obviously, if we just keep on like, appending a conversation. And then I think some other things that are interesting are, yeah, as we mentioned, like the bot itself is technically, or is probably not going to say stuff that is correct. It will probably hallucinate. And then like in certain cases where it's like a wizard, we obviously want it to make stuff up. But like say if we're talking to like the math teacher persona, it might not necessarily be correct. And I think yeah, this goes into more of like how do we generate something that is like actually like grounded, which is yeah, goes into my next part of the demo. But I guess yeah, before that maybe we can just play around with the actual conversation agent. It's like anyone's able to go to this URL and we can just yeah, maybe talk to it a bit. Okay. Well, this is not. So I guess yeah, the demo is probably down. Yeah. Okay. So never mind. We can move on with the presentation. But yeah, if you want to, you're all able to. Like all of this code also is available online at our GitHub, and it is open source. And in more interesting projects in addition to the ones I'm talking about right now. Yeah. And I guess the other project that I wanted to talk about briefly was grounded QA, which is how do we get an answer that is actually like factually correct? And yeah, as we know, large language models are very good at sounding correct and not actually being factually correct. While like Google itself, we're able to search easily, but it's hard to like get to parse through all the information and actually like find the fact that we're interested in. So if we use these in combination with each other, we're able to, or grounded. This is what grounded QA is we're able to create a like succinct response with like the information that we are interested in given a question. Yeah, and I guess this is an intimidating block diagram of effectively like how the Discord bot works. And yeah, so probably won't run through all of it, but yeah, the code again is also online. Effectively, it takes in all the prompt information from our chat, and it spits out like the question that we want to ask Google, which will be used for a query. And then based on that, and also another generate call, which we use to get an example answer, which is probably not correct, but sounds like the right answer. We're able to embed or get embeddings and then see which articles or URLs are the most similar to what we have or what we are interested in, and then after that run another generate call, and then it will like have a nice response for us. Yeah, very simplified version, but yeah, that's how it works. And then I guess I can show like an example of in my Discord. I was just talking to it because sometimes I'm lonely, but yeah. Let's see. Is my Discord showing? Okay. Is it on the conversation?
Yes, it's
Okay.
just like that. Don't audio thing.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
I think it shows like an audio.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this is what I was. Yeah. So I just set up the GitHub repo myself, and then ran like this code, and using this, I created a Discord bot, and then I asked it, when did Christopher Columbus discover America? And it correctly replied in 1492. Yeah, as we have learned. And then it also gives us sources. So like, there's actual like reasons why it output this, or just these are the sources why it outputted this information. And then I asked again like which ship was he on. So like in vacuum, obviously, like Google wouldn't be able to answer this, but since the chatbot has like the history, we're able to iterate using like our chat history, and then the bot can correctly like know I'm talking about Columbus, and then they replied that they were on the Santa Maria, and then we're able, and then gives more sources. So yeah, and then that is the end of my demo. Yeah, so I'll take any questions. I'm on answer all.
Anyone has any questions? Back in the dining area.
So Nick, when you do inference, I'm assuming you're sending the query back to the language model. How are you actually serving it? Are you actually using SageMaker? Are you using something else? Or you actually have your own server?
Yeah, so we have our own hosted version. I guess I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to say.
I think it's fine.
Ask your chessboard.
Yeah, so we do have a platform that is hosted right now on GCP, which is what powers the playground that Nick showed you. But yeah, the hosted, our SageMaker offering is more for users who want to spin up their own instances of our model instead of using a readily available API, which is very simple to use. Does that answer your question? Yeah. I just wanted to make like 3 quick points that I guess Nick was trying to make using his demos. One is if you are just interested in trying out language models for the first time, then please do check out Cohere's Playground. It's obviously free to use, and it already has these presets, some of which that Nick showed you, which makes it like really easy for you to just try out different things. The second thing is when you do get to the point of actually developing applications, it's very easy to transition from that playground to applications by using the export functionality that Nick showed you. We do provide an SDK, which again makes it very easy for you to develop applications using Cohere. And the third point is, which is what Nick was trying to emphasize in the last 2 demos, is the fact that often to develop interesting applications using language models, you're not just making a single API call, but you're trying to think of innovative ways of stitching together multiple calls to whether the embedding endpoint, whether the generate endpoint, summarize endpoint to accomplish a task. We do try to do the heavy lifting by providing endpoints which try to bridge the gap between the capability of a language model and specific business problem that a customer might want to solve. But even so, I think in order to develop an interesting application, you would very likely need to stitch together a bunch of these endpoints in.
Anyone else have any questions? Back here.
Hi. I heard you were talking about persona in the application. So my question is, to be more clear on that, does that change the tone of the response, or is it more related to bias in data set or generation of the answer?
Yeah, I guess it is more for like we set that context, so then the response itself has like the same tone that we were trying to give it. Yeah, so we're trying to effectively prompt it to return in whatever characteristics that we're trying to give it.
Anyone else?
I was very interested in the examples you gave of the conversation with the wizard and the conversation about Columbus. And it looks like all of the memory through the chat is what's explicitly in the chat log.
Yeah.
So the system isn't trying to make inferences about who it's talking to or what they're interested in, other than explicitly what's been said.
Yes. At least in those cases, I'm sure. Yeah. In the ones that I demoed, we effectively just give the chat history to our language model. And there's a question back here.
Take all my steps into it.
Thank you. I just checked your SageMaker announcement, and in the announcement you said that the SageMaker instance or the models on SageMaker is a special one, which is a medium-sized optimized model, especially for SageMaker. And what's the difference between that one and the ones offered on the platform?
Sadiq?
There's no difference. It's actually like the same model. Right now, the model that we have hosted on SageMaker is our command medium model, which is also available to try out. We are planning, so as you may have seen, the SageMaker announcement was fairly recent. So we do want to increase the availability of our models on SageMaker. We have like very limited presence on SageMaker right now, but we are actively working on expanding our presence there.
Anyone else?
I had a question about the pricing model that you guys had, which was per embedding. For our use case, we noticed that if the Word documents were really long, this was very good. But if the documents were short, OpenAI was cheaper. What's the rationale behind doing it per embedding versus the number of tokens, which seem like, or is it like because you have to run the inference anyway, that you might as well charge for that?
I think the rationale was basically simplifying things. Initially, I think we did actually offer per token pricing, but we went to per text pricing, ignoring the number of tokens, just because it is simpler for users to meter their API usage. Having said that, we always try to take feedback from customers or potential customers into account and revise our pricing. One way to engage with us is through our Discord community. So if you have any feedback, just leave it there. I'm sure a lot of people will actually respond, and we actively revise our pricing fairly frequently. I think we might be doing it again soon.
To add to Sadiq's point, we do have a Discord community QR code right next to the sign-up sheet. And speaking of sign-up sheet, if you want to use Cohere's product and just get connected with them, you can leave your email address on the sign-up sheet, and someone from Cohere will surely follow up with you. And might I add, the Discord community is very active, and I actually am a user of it, so I'm definitely posting that. But yes, going on to any questions regarding the demo or anything else?
Hi, thanks for the demo. What do you think is the role of this new thing called prompt engineering in the LLM world?
What is the role of it?
Yeah.
I guess I have my opinions, and I'm sure my team does, but yeah, I think it's like almost an art in itself in actually trying to unlock like effective generations from like these models. It takes like a certain like these cues that people like have to like figure out themselves, and I think it's pretty cool. And like I mean I've seen John's postings, everyone's seen John postings where like they're like paying a lot of money for people just to write prompts. I would say it is like a fairly new role, but it's exciting to me.
I think the other really good part about it is like the flexibility that it gives you. The fact that you can use different prompts to yield drastically different results is both like a blessing and a curse. A curse in the sense of the fact that the effort it takes to probably get good results, both in terms of like image and language generation. But the benefit comes from the fact that like you are in greater control about what gets generated. You have more control over tone, more control over like the length of it and like the detail, everything. So I guess it's more control to the user. That's how I see it.
Question here?
I want to follow up on the survey question that I asked the previous presenter before. I think he mentioned that there are multiple techniques that you guys use inside of your team, but if the model is deployed through SageMaker, then you guys lose all of that, right? Which means that I would expect better performance on your platform.
So not quite. What we provide through SageMaker is basically a containerized version of our model. It's not just the model weights, but it's our model weights packaged with our serving stack, which obviously includes all of the optimizations that we do to do low latency inference. What you do lose out on is the fact that it's not a managed service anymore. It's a container that we have provided, and you as a user are taking responsibility of things like auto scaling. Well, not necessarily you, but you plus SageMaker are basically taking responsibility of doing things like auto scaling, load balancing, and all of that. If you use Cohere's APIs, then we as a platform provider are then responsible for all of those aspects. And also because we have better control over the traffic, we can do a lot of things in a slightly smarter way. We can do customized batching, we can do prioritization of different requests. And all of those are obviously what you would be sacrificing if you are just going to SageMaker by default.
Thanks. So to follow up on that, is your pricing different on-premise? And aren't you afraid of losing IP when you deploy on-premise? Because I guess it's really easy to reverse engineer, and they do unlimited queries to reverse engineer the model.
I don't think we are worried about you trying to do unlimited queries to try to reverse engineer models. I think that's probably like an insanely hard thing to do.
Even if it's like locally packaged in Docker, it's not that hard actually. I mean, the queries would be an extreme method, which are also even easier methods to read the content of the weights in your Docker.
Right. So actually, SageMaker does provide some mechanism for us to protect our IP while giving our users access to our models through our APIs. So they are network isolated instances which only allow you to interact with them through a very narrow API.
Regarding the pricing, I guess, then can you still price per request if you deploy on-premise, or on a SageMaker, or you have to do different pricing?
I think we are still trying, as I mentioned, like we're in the early days of our SageMaker offering, so we do want to revise pricing, so I don't want to comment on that pricing yet. But yeah, I think we do have the capability of trying out different pricing strategies.
But currently, what is the pricing on SageMaker? Do you pay per token, or do you just pay for the instance?
Currently we have like two different types of models that are hosted on SageMaker right now. One is our command medium model, which I think someone already referenced, which is for the generative model. That is right now free during a beta period, so you can just spin up instances. You would still need to pay AWS for the price of the instance itself, like whatever GPU you use, but we are not going to charge an additional overhead on top of that. We do also have a multilingual embedding model, which is actually state of the art as compared to any other providers out there. And for that model, our pricing is obviously available in the marketplace listing, but it's priced per hour of use, not per embedding that you do. At least currently, that's the pricing.
Thank you, Sri. There's another question.
Yeah, so back to the SageMaker question. You mentioned that there is no micro batching on the inference. Is that correct?
So there is batching. It's just that we can do better batching with a more global view of traffic if you're using our platform, versus the batching that happens in SageMaker is per instance of the model.
Got it. And I will assume the tokenizer is also baked into the container image.
Yes, the tokenizer is baked in.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thanks. Yeah, question about the QA grounded demo. You can take this in any direction you want, but what did you learn when you built it?
So I actually didn't build it. It is part of like our open source repository where we have like certain projects that people have made, like at our company. So actually one of our co-founders worked on it. So I guess I didn't learn that much when I was building it. But I guess, yeah, I mean, I just think it's just pretty cool. Like, and using a combination of both like search engines and large language models, I think it shows like what I think Bing and some other like people are trying to do, and that's why like Microsoft has invested so much in OpenAI, since in conjunction with Bing and ChatGPT, they're able to, utilize that and probably get like better like QA from that.
Are there any plans to release models that are fine-tuned on this question answering sort of format that you see in ChatGPT or in Bing, specifically with respect to web searches?
Yes, there are plans. I guess that's the short answer. I don't want to give any timelines. So I guess there are like two different questions there. One is, are we planning to release any conversational models that are similar to ChatGPT? Yes, I'm not sure, but if you actually join our Discord community, we might already have some of these models externally available for you to try and play on. They're still early days for us, but they will be already available. The other question, I guess also going back to the earlier question that you asked, again, I also did not work on the grounded QA demo, so it's not like I actually ran any of the issues, interesting issues. But I think one of the common problems with large language models is hallucination, right? It can make things up. And I think the grounded QA demo, but the point that it was trying to make is that in many applications, you do not want the model to hallucinate. And one way to mitigate it is by making sure that the concepts that the model is generating are grounded in some external corpus, right? In this case, it was search engine, but you could have a knowledge graph or some other external, basically a fact memory that works in conjunction with the language model to give you factually correct answer instead of just hallucinating. Are we working on basically offering such kinds of models beyond just having a demo? Yes, we are working on that. Again, I'm not going to give a particular timeline, but we have some of the best researchers, some of the people who actually work on retrieval LLMs who have joined for here recently. So yeah, I'm sure you'll see something interesting very soon.
before you leave, there's like a QR code that you can scan out here, both for the career page and the Discord community is up. Okay, there's a QR code up there for like Cohere's Discord community, as Sandeep mentioned, but also for our careers page in case you're interested in joining Cohere and working on such cool technologies. Both of them are something you can scan right now. I'm just going to leave it up for the next 5 minutes to people discourse.
And while you scan the QR code, I'm going to run the raffle to see who are the 2 lucky winners for the keyboard. And